Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Both Mom and I are really excited that you can join us today, and we're super excited. We're welcoming back Terri-Ann Russell. She was with us previously on episode 184, where we talked to her about healing after death and her book From Death to Life and the Spirit connection, where we were talking about where her connection with her son that she had lost. So this time we're going to talk about her new book and then her new book that has come out. Her one that we are going to start with is Reaching for You, Mother Mary's Workbook for Spiritual Transformation from Death to Life. So we're super excited to have you back on with us and want to get caught up with you on all things Terri-Ann that you've been doing in your new book and things like that. So, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me back. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about this new book and kind of what's going on in your world?
Yeah, so this is the cover, Reaching for You. And that's Mother Mary. I had an artist actually, she painted this for me.
Well, that's beautiful.
Um, and so this book was written about 2 years after Anthony had passed, and I was having a really difficult time. We were living on the road actually in an RV during COVID. I was 2021, so we were traveling, and I was homeschooling my daughter who was 11. And it was about 2 years after his death, and I was really struggling with still being here without him at that time. I thought, still without him. I was still in that space of lack. And Mother Mary started coming in strongly for me again. And so I grew up Catholic, very rigid, strict Catholic. Um, so I knew of Mother Mary and had I felt this connection with her. So when I started channeling her, it was just very natural for me, very loving. I had no fear behind it or anything like that. So it was very helpful for me at the time. And actually, writing the book took a whole year, integrating all of the 12 transmissions because I was like the guinea pig for these transmissions. So another whole year of integration of these energies, and then another whole year of actually learning to emerge from what that was. So about 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's quite a lengthy process to go through with it. And I've been finding a lot, and I don't know if you have, like, since you've channeled in Mother Mary, it does seem like she is coming to a lot of people now to bring her messages. Like, it just seems to be everywhere at the moment. And so, do you think there's a reasoning behind that?
Oh, absolutely. I think she can't sit idly anymore by and just watch what we do to each other on this planet. And that mother, that feminine, and I say motherly feminine energy, but she's really strong, powerful. I didn't realize because even growing up Catholic, Mother Mary, she wasn't spoken about much. There wasn't a lot in the Bible about her losing her son or what happened to her afterwards. So as I went back and did my research, I was like, well, where is all this stuff about the mother? So it makes sense to me that now in the world that we live in and the chaos that we have around us, that she'd be emerging more and more.
Yeah, it does
Very
make
true.
sense. And I think we need that. We need that loving, we've become such a, I think, chaotic and distance world. I think, through COVID, a lot of that happened where we were really isolated as people. And I think that we almost adopted some of that into our lives and have forgotten sometimes how to connect out with other people.
Hmm.
Yeah, and probably technology too. A lot of the kids nowadays, I have a 16-year-old, and a lot of the kids are just really stuck in their phones and their technology, and they don't know a world without it, honestly, whereas we grew up without it, so it's totally different for us. But yeah, I think that her message is so needed now, and the transmissions really are a way for you to sort of like bypass the logical mind because a lot of us get stuck in that logical egoic mind and how, what, when, where, why. And a lot of the transmissions helps move past that logical mind.
Mhm. So when you channel, do you channel all the time? Do you have a set time that you sit and do it, or does it just come to you wherever, whenever?
I wish, I always share this story when I talk about it because I think it's hysterical. Um, I'd have nobody home and I'd want to channel and connect. Nothing comes through. I have a house full of people, kids running around, and all of a sudden here she is. So I really learned, and I think that was part of my process. I really learned that through the chaos, I have to be able to hear, see, feel, know when she's coming in, or anybody for that matter, not just her, whether it's Anthony or another one of my guides, but through that chaos to be able to do that. So there's no like definite time. Like I can sit and set the intention maybe to connect with her, and maybe I'll hear a few words that day. Or other days, I would go into the office. We were still living in Sedona, so I would, go into the office and she would come through.
Okay.
It'd be beautiful and it'd be lengthy and it'd be this whole process. Um, it was just, hit or miss.
Yeah. So when did you get the inkling then that these transmissions were important for the world to hear and start recording them to go into a book to share with everyone?
I had a really hard time because I was really stuck in a lot of that grief that I was living in. And there came a point when I was writing the book that I went through a dark night of the soul and I had sort of this existential crisis, like everything that I knew and thought I knew was no longer. And this veil of illusion was lifted from my eyes. And honestly, it was really scary. It was sad. And it was almost like I would tell my husband, like, everything that I thought I knew was a lie. And now here I am, and who am I, and who am I to bring this message through? Can I really sit through these transmissions? Because at that time, I had just started, and like, I think I did the first three, and then the Dark Night of the Soul came in. And it brought me to my knees, and I was like, I don't know if I'm the person to do this. I questioned over and over again, am I this person? Am I the person to bring these transmissions through? Because I don't know that I can go through this at this time while going through the grief and loss of my son.
Mhm.
So yeah, I questioned a lot during that time. And I just knew once I began writing, because I think there's a misconception when you're like us that we get like this whole blueprint. All right, Terri-Ann, you're going to sit down and you're going to write this book and it's going to be blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't work like that. Do you agree?
Yeah, I absolutely do agree. And it's funny because a girlfriend of ours, she just keeps saying to me, you're going to be writing a book. And then she gives me all these tips and she's like, it's not going to come all at once. You have to write down things. And then you'll find that, you'll sit down with these words or these transmissions that you get or whatever you get. And then it will start coming together more and flow through. And I'm like, okay. I'm not sure if I can trust that yet. I don't know if I'm there yet because I'm not
Yeah.
I've felt like I'm not hearing the things, and I just recently it's kind of been coming back where I'm starting to get little bits here and there. So, and I think like just like you, it's like, am I an imposter in this? Or am I actually getting this? Or is this, and it is because it feels different than when your mind is thinking these things.
Yeah, I always share that with my clients. They're like, how do I know my higher self, my soul is talking to me versus me? And I'm like, well, it's different and it's loving and it's caring. It's not like I need to go to a grocery store, with a list of things to do. Your higher self is always talking to you very lovingly. Like you should step out there and go meet that person across the street. So it's different the way, and I find, I don't know if you find this as well, but all of my guides call me something different and they speak to me very differently based on our relationship in past lives or in between lives.
Yes, yeah. And I find sometimes, like for me, when my guides are talking to me, it's very, it doesn't flow the same way that the English language flows. It's very almost choppy, I guess, is how
Yes.
I would describe it. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's kind of, for me, it's like they're trying to come down to my level to give me this information. So it's very, Like sometimes I read it after I'm like, oh, okay.
And I think that's why I love the Mary book more because, it was like integrating your lower chakras and your upper chakras and the heart chakras in the middle. And so you're integrating, coming to that place. And the way my son always described it is his vibration is so high that if he physically, if he came into my physical body, that you'd explode. And so ours is so low. And so we have to come up and they have to come down. And this whole process, I didn't understand this whole process actually has to occur while this is happening. And we go through that while it's going on.
Yeah. So now you're starting to channel more and more guides or beings or
So the Mary book started with Mary, and it went through a process of, as I got through the later transmissions of, because while you're going through the transmissions in the book, each transmission is a different one and it's doing different things. So you can almost take it as if it's like a remembrance. You're not ready to remember everything at once. So as you go through like the first five, and then you get to the sixth one is like a culmination of the first five together. And so now, as I got to the later ones, my goddesses came through, which would become my next book, which is the Crystalline Light series, Awakening Her Within. And it's about the divine masculine, the divine feminine, and it's 10 activations with the goddesses. But the goddesses started to come through and extraterrestrials started to come through in the later transmissions in the book. So it was all this culmination because I think when we look at it, we think of them as separate beings. Like they're all just like, okay, well, you're a goddess and you're, an angel and you're an archetype. And so, but they are all joined together. And so that's what we consider our spiritual team, our soul group. And so they're all joined together, even though they have what we like to put in these labels or names.
yeah. And I don't know that they do that so much um in their realm, right? Like because
Right.
they're so interconnected. It's not like, us as on this human plane where we're like, oh, you're from, China and you're from Italy and you're like we break these things up and give each other labels all over the place. And they're just not like that, I don't think.
No, and they understand the connection and it's deeper and it's more telepathic, right? It bypasses everything that our logical mind has. And I think when you are going on a spiritual journey, through our life as a human, often our spiritual and our human have a hard time sort of coming to that middle ground. And I think a lot of what I do today is about bringing that balance in of the human and the spiritual because we are both. And I think when you learn to start the spiritual journey, all you want to do is the spiritual stuff. I don't want to be down there in the human ick and yuck, right?
True.
Yeah, that is so very true. So when a person is reading your book, then are they getting these transmissions? Is there some activations for them? Will it open them up, I guess, more so if they're not someone that's potentially getting those transmissions themselves?
Yes, because if you think about the spoken word, it's almost as if that's the activation in and of itself. When I share, let's look at a transmission four, let's see. It's called the power of light. And you're going to speak the transmission. And so through that spoken word is this activation that comes, right? Think about it as if it's like these energetic messages through these words, and you're activating within you what you need. Now, say you don't need a chapter on forgiveness. Say you're really good at forgiveness. Maybe that chapter for you isn't really a lengthy one or a lengthy process for you to undergo. I always share with my clients that maybe you do three of the 12 transmissions and you don't go any further, and that's okay too. It's not meant for everybody, and it's not meant for everybody to do all 12. It's meant whatever you feel like you need. If you read one and you're good, great. If you read all 12 and you've transformed into this metamorphosis and you're this whole new person by unlayering, because that happens over time. That's why I shared how long it took me, the 3 years. it wasn't an overnight process as I started this process to unlayer all this stuff because I had all my human stuff, my past life stuff that I was still holding on to.
Yeah. And I think that's
True.
beautiful that you share that it took that time because um, I just have had some recent, like, not personal to me, well, yes, grief, but grief and experiencing it around me. And I'm just, I keep saying to these people, it's like, you don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know when it's going to, you might be fine. And then, 6 months down the road, all of a sudden, something triggers you and that grief kind of comes in for you in full force. So I love that you say that, it was such a journey through that to get to the other side, to see that kind of light, even though you had, probably moments of light as you were going through it.
Yeah, there was definitely moments of light, but again, the questioning, my ego was not quiet and it was really, trying to keep me in this smaller place. But the more that I worked on it, the more I did the shadow work, the more I went through that dark night of the soul, the more I did the inner child work, the more I unlayered all of these things that I thought, right? Because I thought I had worked on this stuff already. I don't need to work on this stuff again. But then here it is, once again, brought forth to me. And I think that's a process many of us go through. And whether you're on your spiritual journey or not, you're going to go through moments of growth while you're here. And you're going to start to see that who you thought you were, you really aren't.
Yeah. That is very true. Every day it's a new thing of who am I? And I think when you reflect back on who you were even in the past in this life and how far you've journeyed in this life and what is opening up for you when you allow that opening. And I think for a lot of us we get fearful of, or just in my perception anyways, is we get fearful of letting that in because we're scared of what if we do really open up to that.
True.
Yeah, and I think for me too, like, because I think a lot, not just me, a lot of people are fearful of what is that going to mean for my children if I'm changed? What is that going to mean for my husband, my parents? What does that mean if I'm no longer who I was and now I'm a different person? And I feel like, especially for me as a mother, I lost a child. I didn't want to lose any of my other children because I was this totally different person. So I had to undergo a lot of understanding of what the contracts that we made in spirit meant. And even though I was changing, it was okay because they all contracted to be on the journey with me. And that's not to say that sometimes those people don't leave because they do. Like an example being with my ex-husband, he was physically, verbally abusive. I could have never have grown into the person that I grew into had I stayed with him.
Hmm.
But I had so much fear around leaving him that it was hard to do. So if you look at that, it's the same sort of scenario for people. If I do this, the possibility is real that your life will change and shift. But it doesn't mean that those people that you love and care for are not going to be there anymore.
True. If we talk about our lives and how much they've changed anyway, instance that we remember how many stages of our life and what we've done through those different stages because of loss, either through a parent and friends and all that other thing, and even raising our children and jobs and all the thing. We take these different shifts as we move along, right? And it's whether or not we absorb what spirit's trying to give to us along route, sort of thing, to help us to see where we need to be going and where we need to be traveling from there. I think because I find with myself, through so many experiences in my lifetime, it has taken me in and out of all kinds of different ways of thinking, ways of being, and conducting myself, and allowing spirit to ignite more with me, and in a trusting manner. But I found a lot of it was just trusting me.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And
yeah.
that's where the changes really came for me, anyways. And I'm interested to read your book. I know it's going to be fascinating. and I'll try
No,
it out.
I think you're
Yeah,
gonna love it. You know, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say different things, the different transmissions that they connected more with one than another. You know, so it's really based upon what you need. There's journaling prompts, there's transmissions that you speak. There's a whole sacred practice I start with in transmission one, which is called the activation of light, because not everybody knows about protection. Not everybody knows about clearing energy and stuff like that. So I share all of that in the beginning of the
right.
book as sort of a workbook so you can start to learn that these are things that you need to do daily. And so if you
That's
get nothing else, you're going to get, you know, that way for you to sort of begin to learn to connect, to decipher energies that are coming in when your energy is lower, when your energy is higher. And we all can sort of feel it or know it, right? We know when we're having a bad day, and it's not hidden from you. Kim and I were just talking before the show about having a bad dream about our husbands. You know it's not true, but you wake up and you're still in a bad mood.
You're like, why
that's
did you
what
do that? Right? But that's exactly what I said. I'm not mad at you because I know it wasn't, but would you stop doing bad things in my dream? Right? And then it does, and it shifts your energy for the day a little bit. Like I just found today, like I, and it's funny, I kind of was questioning myself on the way home. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit. It was like this morning before I went to work, I was running behind, but I did read my horoscope. And the horoscope said something to the effect of there will be lots of delays and obstacles in your path today. So when I came home at the end of the day, I reflected on this. But yes, I left. I was late. I was almost late for work. I was driving to work, and I very rarely see deer, but I was in the city, and this deer was nonchalantly walking across the road like it had all the time in the world. And I'm like, dude, can you just get across the road? Because like I really need to get to work, right? And I'm like, okay, deers are be gentle with yourself. Okay, I'm trying to. And so all day it just seemed like there was just one mishap after another. And then on my way home, I was driving, I was like, I wonder if when I read that, I put that into my mind of, hello, let's create all these delays into our my world today. So, do you think that's the thing that we can do by just simply reading something, or because I think it goes in hand with your activations in your book, right? If we're reading
Yeah, you know,
things,
I find it hilarious sometimes because I am definitely an overthinker. As much as I'm
funny.
intuitive, I'm very type A, right? I want to know how things work. I'm very analytical. I'm always like, is there somebody like back there? Terri-Ann's gonna cross this street right now. Put a, you know, an owl up for her to see and she'll know what it means, you know, or put an Anthony license plate in front of her, she'll know what it means. But I do think that I think when you can put things in your mind and you can make them happen. If you think, and I tell my husband this all the time, I'm like, if you think you're going to have a bad day at work, chances are you're going to have a bad day at work. It's one of those things that are just, and it doesn't have to be, you know, the most horrible day you've ever had, but maybe every little thing is annoying you. And because we're human, and especially at night in our dreams, we pick up energy, right? We pick up energy throughout the day. These activations are similar. We're going to recalibrate from the inside out. And so what I find is your whole physical body goes through this metamorphosis because you're now alleviating some of that egoic mind. Even who I was a year ago, I am not now because I was so much more in my egoic mind than I am today going through this process of writing these books.
Right.
yeah,
Wow.
I
I
can
know
see
the other,
that. Oh, sorry.
sorry. The other night I was in bed, just laying ready to go to sleep. And all of a sudden I couldn't sleep. And I thought, what the heck? And all of a sudden I had this really bad energy, feeling this energy around me. And I thought, it'll go away. And the longer I lay there, I thought, no, I got to get up and I got to do some work. And I come in and I did my Palo Santo and did my stuff. And then by the time I was finished, I went back into bed and I was fine. I went back to sleep. So it was just an energy that seeped in, I guess. Um, and not even knowing how it seeped in. I mean, I just came back from holidays, so maybe I carried it with me. But it was just so weird because it just happened just like that. Oh, there's a negative energy here, so I need to get rid of it. Um, I think that too is identifying that spirit's trying to say to you, pay attention. I'm trying to talk to you.
Right. Or you didn't do your clearing before you went to bed. Like there's a practice I do. And it's funny because years and years ago when I started my spiritual journey, I didn't know about this at all. I didn't know about protection or clearing. And I worked in this little crystal shop uptown in Sedona. And he was almost like, really wasn't negative, but he was like a trickster type of energy, like a jokester. And I could see him always, like he'd hang around in the back. He had like a black coat. And not knowing at the time, but I brought him home. And my
Mhm.
husband woke up that night and I was so tired. So, like when something attaches to you, you get very tired. And so I didn't know any of this back then. But my husband woke up in the morning and he's like, something was messing with me all night. And
Oh,
during the night,
no.
I woke up and I saw this shadow guy over there. But he's like, I feel like somebody was here and something was messing with me during the night. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. That was probably something I brought home. But then I
Well,
started to learn about, energies and if you don't know about protection, I think that's one of the most least about talked about things that is
Mhm.
so important.
Yeah,
so important.
I
Yeah.
agree. It was funny the other day. I was actually doing a clearing in my house because I could just feel the energy was very stagnant, and I just was like, I just don't like it. I gotta clear it. So I start clearing the energy, and my granddaughter comes in and she says, "Well, but what if you clear out, like you said, your aunt came to you the other day, so." What if you clear that out, then she doesn't come? I'm like, it doesn't really work like that. It's just the lower energies you're getting rid of. Those ones that are positive and are there for you in a good way, they will still come to you. Oh, interesting. She's like, but right,
I
I,
people
love that.
don't know that when they're
I
doing
think
things.
that's true. And I think too, with going away and being in a different place in an airplane and everything else, I know better than to clear when I get home. And I didn't. So yeah, I probably brought it home with me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes that's part of being human, right? We're tired, we went on a long trip. I just don't feel like doing this work tonight. But then you wake up during the night and you're like, okay, I got to do this work.
Now I got to do it in the middle of the night instead.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So with this new series that you have coming out, will it be kind of broken down into, not that I want to label them, but into kind of the different beings then? Or is it still kind of a work in progress and you're going to see how it transmutes to you?
No, it was just released. So that was Mary was released in 2022 and this book was just released October of this year, so 3 years.
Wow.
That book also shifted and changed throughout the process as I was writing. It's 10 goddesses and they are attunements that come through and we're working on different things now, your chakras and your nadis. And so Mary really is about the spiritual transformation of yourself and aligning, getting rid of and unlayering a lot of that stuff, those old ideas, beliefs, patterns we hold on to. The second process of the book now, we're going to go in and we're going to teach you about the divine feminine, the divine masculine. And sort of if you look at it, these are the ways that I've been initiated through. Mary was the beginning. Now the goddesses, and I don't even know what the third book is going to be about yet. But the second book is the Crystalline Light series, Awakening Her Within. And it talks all about the female goddess archetype energy and really getting to know, because I don't know about for you, but for me, I grew up very masculine. I had to do everything. I was the strong one. I was always told I was the strong one, right? I had no man that I needed to rely on because he wasn't reliable. So I ended up taking on the masculine role of raising the children and doing all that. Not until much later in life did I start to understand about this female aspect of me I've never connected with. And even being intuitive doesn't mean embodying because even though I'm intuitive, I still didn't know how to go with the flow. I still didn't know how to just be. If I was sitting around, I was lazy. So I still had
Yeah.
these feelings that I just didn't know how to embody this female. of me. And so awakening her within is exactly that. It's about awakening the her within you.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I
Very
like
And I
nice.
had a woman draw that, and I don't have a copy here, but it's gorgeous. The cover in and of itself, she's a artist that does spiritual work, and so the cover itself is an activation. So if you look it up on Amazon, you'll be able to find it and see the cover right there. Most people are drawn to that.
Beautiful. Good for you.
yeah.
Good for you. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. And can you talk to people maybe a little bit about if they were interested in kind of starting to do some of these awakenings? I know you have a bunch of different services that you offer too, but the just how they would go about kind of, I guess, trusting themselves or some practices that they could maybe do to start initiating this within themselves.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent in Reiki 1 because I believe Reiki 1, you need to do the 21 days of self-healing. And that really makes you take the time to put you first and to learn about yourself and your energy and your process and to care for you. So Reiki 1, I think, is a great place for people to start if they want to do that. Meditation and mindfulness, I can't speak enough about meditation and mindfulness because I don't think that it's practiced enough. I know when I don't do it, I'm like you, Barb, running around. I've been on a flight, I'm tired. But if I don't do it, I know what'll happen. I won't be in that space of higher frequency, higher vibration, and things that when I'm up there wouldn't bother me. But when I'm down here, they will bother me. And so that
Mhm.
causes tension in your life, tension with your family, your work partners, things like that. So meditation and mindfulness. A lot of my services that I offer start to teach you to focus on caring for yourself.
Yeah.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. How wonderful is it that you're teaching this to people that are younger too? Because they're trying to open their minds up to what is out there and what they can do. Now you're giving them an opportunity to dig deeper into themselves, where it took us so much longer in our lives to really identify with what we wanted to do and how we wanted to work with some things. Is you're giving them an opportunity to see it so young and and blessing themselves, protecting themselves, so that they can identify with this. And it's going to make their lives, the ones that decide to take it and do work with it, such a unique experience and such a young time in their life. So how they would grow with that over the years could be amazing. It's
Yeah.
things just opening up so much. But thanks for doing that. I think that women have to know about self-awareness, back up a bit, definitely protecting yourself. That's huge.
Yeah. And just to know at such an early age, like I wish I knew. I
Yes,
wish I
same.
knew. What I would have listened, I don't know, but I wish I had the opportunity to be aware of all of these things or to be told that I had the power to control my life. I had the power to be the author, the creator. I wish somebody would have told me that.
Because
Yeah.
then you would have written a book when you were 20 or something, right?
Yeah, that would have been cool.
So where do you see, like, as you're getting these transmissions, and I know you and I were talking a little bit before we got on here about now you're getting some light languages coming in, and so what do you think, like, do you have a vision of what you think is going to happen in the future for you, or is that kind of just wide open and you're just open arms waiting to see?
I do have a vision. I've seen things. I've done past life regressions, and so I'm very much into. I still am very type A. I like to know some of it, even though I'm not going to be told all of it. But I've had such a hard time for me speaking light language. I couldn't, like, even in the car by myself, I couldn't get the words out. They just wouldn't come. And so I had do a lot of throat chakra work, which is through the second book, Awakening Her Within. I worked on a lot of this for myself. And so that was able to help me start to speak the light language. So I think in the future, you'll see me doing a lot more of activations, DNA activations, light language, connecting with extraterrestrials, and you'll see me playing out in the ethers and the stars.
Well, I love that, and hopefully you'll come back on and share that with the people, our followers, and with us, because it intrigues me, the light language, and I feel like a lot of times I'm like on the cusp, and I just haven't moved over. Like I've done some things in meditations where, all of a sudden you're rocking or shaking or doing some of those things, and it's like you feel something's coming. But so is there a way that for me or somebody else that's experiencing that, they could maybe move past that cusp?
Yeah, where do you feel like you're stuck? So I used to write light language before I would speak it because I couldn't speak it, but I used to just write. And often they would just look like little doodles on the page. Sometimes I actually get actual, figures and configurations. But where do you feel it when you're kind of stuck? Is it like me where it's the throat and you can't speak it, or could you write it, or?
Yeah, I think it's more in the throat for me as well. Yeah, so
Yeah, so I would
I
definitely recommend the second book, which is the Crystalline Light Series 2, Awakening Her Within. That did a lot of work on the chakras and the nadis. And I don't know if people know a lot about the nadis. I'll just go into it quickly. So the nadis are like the channels. I call these attunements or channels because they're channeling through. And so think of them as like fiber optic cables going through the chakras. Those also are energetic. And so those can have stuck energy within them. But again, I feel like you guys, all in divine timing when it's time. And I just never felt like it was time until I went through this process. And I feel like I'm getting closer to that time. So if you do
Beautiful.
read the second book, I'd be honored to hear what you had to say about that. And if anything changed for you with your light language. I think it's beautiful light language. We don't always understand what it means, right? Sometimes I'll speak it or write it, and I have a sense maybe of what it means. But the activation is actually coming when you're writing it. I would have clients look at it, hold it on their heart, hold it in their hands. Um, but when you're speaking it, you're activating it through the cells in the body.
That's beautiful. I love that. It intrigues me so much, and I find it fascinating because it's like, well, it's like another language, right? And I love languages, so it's just like just knowing that you can connect to this higher realm that's giving you these messages that you're downloading, I think is just it blows my mind, really, right? It's like when you
Yeah.
go outside and look at the stars in the sky, and it's just like how vast our universe is and how much is out there, and just the possibilities, just it makes me in wonder all the time and amazement.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you're going to see more of that, more awareness of what's out there and what's coming. I'm excited. I've been talking about it for years and years because when I moved to Sedona, um, I would start to see things in the sky. Sedona is magical, and so I would see things in the sky and not fully understand. But I was always like you, and even as a child, I would look out and I would be like, there has to be so much more out there than what I'm
Hmm.
seeing,
Oh, yeah.
and why aren't we told about this? And so in my dreams, I would travel to those places. So to be able now to speak light language for me has been such a blessing because I feel like that was a hurdle like you that I had to get through. And it could have been because I was killed or something like that, speaking in tongues back then. So I don't really know where that fear came from. But when I'm serious when I say I was in the car by myself and I could not even get the words out. Nobody's going to hear me, so why can't I get the words out? But they would not come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think again, it's like there's some things I think we try and we're a little bit fearful because we're like, yeah, what if that breaks open, and then, people are like, okay, I don't know that I fit in her world anymore. And I mean, I think two things. I think not everybody is supposed to fit. And like you said, there's our soul contracts, but I think that we're supposed to move past people. But I think too that sometimes we're to push ourselves past that because we are also supposed to raise people up that are around us to get them to the next, whatever their next level is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I started at such a young age that I was in spirits and working with it, but I was afraid to be outward with it and speak about it because everybody would think I was crazy. And like
Yes.
you, I became a single mom, raising my kids of my own. And I never wanted my kids taken away from me or anything. So I was afraid to be open about how I felt about my spirituality and what it did for me, you know. And another reason why your book is good because it tells young people that yeah, you're not crazy, and yeah, there's places you can go to talk to people to show you that you're on the right route of where you want to travel, what you can do with the knowledge that you know already, even though you're young, you're not crazy, you know. And you can take that and you can do some stuff with it, right? If somebody had said that to me when I was 17, I would have like my mother-in-law said to me, no, no, there's such a thing as spirits out there. You know, oh, she was the only one I could talk to about it. But the thing is, if it had been like it is now, and like what you're doing with your book, I would like, hurrah! I mean, how I would have grown, right? It
Yeah.
was beautiful. Yeah,
Or how your life would have been different because of that. Had we
yeah.
talked about it, had we been aware. And I think that's why I love your guys' show so much. I mean, it brings
Uh,
so much awareness to so many different subjects with so many different people that you connect with, and you're really doing the world so much good with it. So I'm
uh,
honored to be back on today.
Well,
you're a
thank you.
sweetheart.
Thank you. And yours as well, because if everybody hasn't tuned into your first one, you also do a podcast where you have a lot of different spiritual people on to get these messages out. And I think this is just so needed at this time. So yeah, we love having you on with us and appreciate that, you're also on this path that you're sharing this information with other people. So can you tell
Thank
everybody
you.
where they can find you if they're trying to look for you?
Sure. Well, I'm pretty much everywhere, but Linktree, you can look up Terri-Ann Russell. My Facebook is Sassy Soul Healing. Amazon has all of my books. If you search Terri-Ann Russell, all of my books will just be there. I just completed an anthology for grief with 23 different authors. That's
Wow.
on there. Yep, I just completed my third book, and so yeah, I'm moving and grooving. Instagram is Sassy Soul Healing.
And what's the name of your podcast for
My
everybody?
podcast is Sacred Wellness with Terri-Ann Russell. And so it really talks about mind, body, soul. It's how to have the balance between the spirituality and the human. Because I think even on a spiritual journey, we get so caught up in the spiritual aspect that we forget that we're human too. And how do we integrate the both of them? And a lot is also about the masculine and the feminine, right? Because we are
Mhm.
both. I was always one or the other. And I always thought I had to be one versus the other. And so it really, my show is a lot about what that balance is.
Yeah,
Nice. Very
that's
nice.
wonderful. And it sounds like the books will be as well for people. So I'm very excited to read your book, and as I'm sure hopefully all of our followers will as well. So if you had a final thought to leave with everybody, what would it be?
Uh, I think just there's no greater gift you can give yourself than to just remember who you truly are. And when you learn to live from your heart, because many of us have these broken hearts, we have these wounds, and we don't understand them as we're going through the process. But once you love yourself, that just sort of the world changes before your eyes and you emit this beautiful frequency. So learn to love yourself, give yourself grace, and move through this process because it's not an easy process.
No, it's not.
No,
No, it's
it's
not.
it's definitely this human life is definitely it's a chore sometimes.
Yeah. But
Sometimes
it is
I
beautiful
just
in the
want to
end, and
fly.
where we get to go back to is even more beautiful, where we'll create more. And I'm
Yes,
sure
Yeah,
that we've created in another life and another lifetime as well. And that's what brought
yeah.
us together today.
yes, I would agree with you on that. And it's been such a pleasure having you back on and talking about
Always.
books, and like I'm excited to see where your series goes with them and to follow along with you as you grow and expand and bring this to everyone. So thank you for
Thank you.
sharing your time with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Nice to see you again. It's
And
always a pleasure.
yes, it is. Everybody else, we'll see you on the next one.
You bet.